What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Ricky Bowden back with another video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button for me. I would gladly appreciate that. Today, I'll be talking about my first duty station, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Walking down the street one day.
Walking down the street one day.
I met a total stranger.
I met a total stranger.
He asked me what I wanted to be.
He asked me what I wanted to be.
Airborne Ranger.
Airborne Ranger.
So, as I stated in my last video, I did not want to go to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It was the last place I wanted to be, but whatever. The Army told me to be there, so that's where I had to go. I leave Fort Meade a week early. I leave my family back because my wife is clearing housing and the movers weren't going to be there until a week later. And she just really had a hard time leaving Fort Meade. But that was our first experience, our first duty station. She made a lot of friends there. Some friends we kind of still have to this day. That was her first experience of going somewhere, meeting people, loving where you are, and then here come the orders, you gotta leave. So in the military, that's one thing that's guaranteed, you're gonna leave. She stayed back and took care of all that stuff and things like that. So basically, I got there in October of 2011 and I went a week early. So I get there in the middle of the night. I don't know why I keep getting to these places in the middle of the freaking night, but I drove this time and I still got there in the middle of the night. Didn't know where the freak I was going. So I called up one of my friends from AIT who had got stationed there, which probably 80% of us were stationed there from Fort Meade. So it wasn't even like you were going anywhere new. It was everybody from AIT was there. So I called him like, hey man, I'm on Fort Bragg Boulevard, but I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know what the address is to where I'm supposed to be going, blah, blah, blah. He was like, all right, go pull into this Wendy's and then I'll come get you. So I pull into this Wendy's and him and his wife, which she was pregnant at the time, they came and picked me up. Shout out to Forts. Shout out to Forts. And they came and picked me up. And I followed them and he took me to the reception barracks. So on Fort Bragg at that time, they had a reception type company. So you went there and you checked in and you did all your paperwork. So even that night when I got there, I did all my paperwork that night. I did everything. It was a bunch of paperwork. And then when I was all done, it was in the middle of the night, they took me to the barracks. I stayed there for about 3 or 4 days or something like that. And so basically when you go there, you go and do all your appointments and all your in-processing stuff, and they take around, you have a sheet and they have sergeants there that making sure you do it. You have formations. We marched, we did PT, all that crap. We did a run. Like my first run there, that was like 3 miles or something like that, but it was stupid. After you do all that and you do all your paperwork, then your unit comes to pick you up. And they took me to this other building and we went in there and it was the same thing. More paperwork, more checking in. I think it was like battalion or I don't know. I don't remember. But all I know is we went to this building and then we did more paperwork. The first question, a lot of the higher, the senior NCOs was asking, you going airborne? You going airborne? And I was told by people before I got there, you better say yes, you're going, even if you're not, just so they won't be on your back. So I said yes, I'm going, yeah, I plan on it, blah, blah, blah. And then I get to the actual unit, S1, and the first sergeant comes out. First thing he says, you going airborne? I was like, I plan on the first sergeant, even though I knew good and well I wasn't thinking about going on airborne. It wasn't going to happen. So I got asked that question like 2 million times as soon as I got there, which is one of the main reasons why I didn't want to go there. I go to the unit orderly room, sign in, blah, 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 and find out I do not have a security clearance. Now in our job, you have to have a secret security clearance, and freaking the people at the student company did not put my clearance in because I'm coming from an MOS that didn't have 68 whiskey, that didn't need a clearance. So when I went over to 25 Victor, they had to put me in for a clearance and they didn't do it. So because they didn't do it, they ran me here and they got denied. So I had to go through all this little stuff and I had to pay this off and pay that off and do different things because they could have just said, you know what, you don't got a clearance, you can't do this job, bye. But again, this is why I believe I was meant to do this, because I got chance after chance. So I get there and that wasn't my fault that they didn't put the clearance in. But anyway, so I stayed in the orderly room from October. I don't know, I think I stayed in there for like almost my first year at the unit. I stayed in the orderly room. And the first sergeant we had there, he was one of those guys that he just judged you. He didn't, without even really knowing you. And he made up in his mind that I just wasn't gonna be crap. Like I was just a piece of crap, but I wasn't gonna never be nothing. And that was his attitude towards it. And I had my friend Turner, which is weird. He was the one that actually told the first sergeant, your best victor is probably in your orderly room. And he was like, nah, he can't do nothing. He ain't worth nothing, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I'll put him up against anybody you got over there right now. When I was hearing all these things he was saying about me, it motivated the heck out of me. And I think that's the reason I became who I was. Like, I was motivated like I don't know what. So being in the orderly room, we couldn't go. We had there was an E5 in there who was running the orderly room, and he didn't let us in there. It was me and another friend of mine to this day, Bright, who we were just sitting on the outside of the office, just sitting there waiting. We couldn't go in. We couldn't do anything. We just sat there and literally looked at the paint dry until we went to lunch every day. That's what we did. So time went along. I did something. I can't remember which project it was, but I did several things. But I did a project for the commander that he needed done. And when they saw that I can do things, it was a graphic project, and I did it, and it was like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. Something for the FRG or something. And once I did that, then they saw I can do stuff. And then I got led in the office, and I was doing this, and I was doing that. And somehow I was able to get a hold of a kit which had, cameras and stuff like that. And everywhere we went, I had one. No matter where we went, I had a camera and I was shooting because I wanted to be the best that was there. So I was always shooting all the time. You guys, anybody that was at Fort Bragg with me, if you seen me, I had a camera in my hand and I was documenting. And that's how I got, my skill set got up. And that's how I got better as a photographer. It's just continuing to shoot. When nobody else didn't want to shoot, I was there shooting. So time went along, and I started making products and doing things, and people started seeing what I was doing. The first sergeant started seeing what I was doing, and then he saw I can do something. He still didn't particularly care for me, but he saw at least that I can do something. So I started doing things from the orderly room, just like I was over there. And I couldn't go where everybody worked because you had to have a secret security clearance to work over there. It was a secret building, and I couldn't go in. It was really not much secret about it, but anyway. So as time went along, I was sitting in the orderly room one day, and my girl, Lindsay, she got a phone call saying that I got my clearance, and she was so happy. She was actually happier for me to have my clearance than I was hearing the news. Like, she was so happy for me, but she knew that what I can do, and she knew that I needed to be over there producing. So I got to Fort Bragg. They tried to get me to go airborne, and I just didn't go. And that's another reason why he didn't like me, because I refused to go airborne. So being at that unit, it was one of those units where politics came into play. If you weren't airborne, they didn't give you certain opportunities. Was it right? Absolutely not, but they did that. That's what they did at that time. They didn't allow you to have certain trainings. They didn't allow you to go on any missions or any deployments. You can hang it up if you weren't airborne. You had to be airborne to be able to do all that stuff. Now today it's not that way, because I believe IG got involved and things of that nature, and now they can't discriminate. They were like holding people back from the board if you weren't airborne. Just a whole bunch of stuff they were doing simply because you weren't airborne. And I got to a place to where I wasn't going. I just told him, I'm not going airborne. Stop asking, I'm not going. And then he was like, you know what, I understand, you're older, and you're set in your ways, and I'm not gonna be able to convince you to go airborne. He was like, but these young ones, I can get them, that's easy. So I was like, yeah, this man playing mind games. But anyway, so, I did a lot of my best work at Fort Bragg. And a place that I didn't want to go, but it ended up being the best place for me, because it allowed me to get that passion for what I do. And even though it was birthed out of somebody doubting me, it still gave me that passion for what I do. And I am who I am because I went to Fort Bragg first. Because once you go to Fort Bragg, it doesn't get harder than that from there. Even though our unit wasn't all that tough, everywhere else was a piece of cake compared to being there. So, trying to think of anything else that I can think of from Fort Bragg. There's so many things happened there as well. I did end up winning Photographer of the Year while I was there. And they had this big, I got an AAM. I think I left there with an RCOM. When I was, I went to DMC, which is the digital multimedia course. I was able to go back to DIMFOS and do some upper training or advanced training. there at Denfos from Fort Bragg. I did a lot of things at Bragg, and I met a lot of good people that I'm still friends with to this day, and 2 friends that are some of my best friends and probably going to be lifetime friends, and Wright and Turner. We both went there as well. We all ended up at the same spot, which was crazy. So, long story short, I ended up staying there for 2 years. Most people get there and you get stuck. That's another thing they said. Once you get to Bragg, you're there, you're stuck. And that wasn't the case for me, because you know why? Because I didn't go airborne. If I would have went airborne, I'd probably still be there today in 2017, and I got there in 2011. I would probably still be there, but I'm not, because I didn't go airborne. I was only there for 2 years, and they said that, okay, so where are you going next? I had planned on getting out, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay in one more. I'm gonna re-enlist. So I re-enlisted, and I did something that doesn't make sense, but I re-enlisted for stabilization at Fort Bragg to stay there, like, you know. But that ended up being the best thing for me, because I was able to talk to Branch, and she got me a spot over in Europe, and that's when I got orders to go to the American Forces Network over in Simbach, Germany. And it was, you know, people told me that as a victor it would be very tough to get an AFN slot, but it wasn't. I got it. I got it. Everything people said that I wouldn't be able to do, I've pretty much done it in my career. So that's where I went next. Thanks for listening to this story. I'll talk about AFN and being in Europe and living in Europe and things of that nature on my next video. But again, please subscribe. Please thumbs up if you haven't done it already. And again, thanks for watching.